All right, how do I make it? Oh, we are live. Okay, cool. There we go.
And 3, 2, 1.
Throw some music out there. Can we do that? Let's do it. All right.
Welcome to the newest edition of the Endzone, and we might even have a little bit of a new look around the Endzone these days, Mr. Reitzel.
Yes, we do. We've got some new segments, and we got a new section for the fans and listeners to participate and give some feedback. I'm excited, man. We're going to kind of streamline things a little bit and have a little more fun with some new ideas.
Yeah, absolutely. We just felt like things were getting a little stale. We wanted to shake it up a little bit. Figured now was the time to do this. So we got a little bit of a new format. Like Kevin said, we got some new things, including a new topic where we want to get you, our listeners, our watchers on YouTube. We're going to call it the Fan Huddle. Kevin, you want to explain that to our people in the chat real quick?
Yes, we want to let people know that for here going out, our new episodes are going to have a section later in the show called the Fan Huddle. But we're going to kind of tease some topics that we're going to throw out that we're going to talk about. But we want to save one specific for the Fan Huddle for you guys to say, hey, I want to talk about that. We'll mention your comments. But we want you to challenge us too. If there's a topic that maybe we're not talking about, that you think that we should, that's worth the Fan Huddle topic, throw it out there and we'll bring it up. And, we might throw in a couple others in the Fan Huddle, not just the one, but we'll see kind of how things go. But we got some stories to talk about. And if you guys got something, go for it.
Yeah, no, it's going to be fun. But you know what? Before we even get started with this brand new look, new feel Endzone, when we are excited, Mr. Reitzel, would you care to tell people where they can find not only the Endzone, but all the great shows of the Fandom Podcast Network?
Yeah, did you do the intro music? I didn't hear the intro music.
I did do the intro music.
Oh, okay. I didn't hear it. All right, here we go. First of all, live on YouTube. If you are watching us live on YouTube, please go ahead and like the episode and also subscribe. So, that's the big thing right now is please help us by getting more subscribers to YouTube. Please hit that subscribe button. Also, too, we're live on YouTube. All of our audio podcasts are also on YouTube. So you can also find the master feed of all of our audio podcasts at fpnet.podbean.com. And also the Fandom Podcast Network can also stream on that Podbean app. Also, too, you can find the Fandom Podcast Network on all the major podcast platforms, of course, Apple Podcasts and iTunes, the big ones there. You can find us on Facebook as well, Fandom Podcast Network. Email us at fandompodcastnetwork@gmail.com, and also on Instagram and Twitter at Fandom Podcast Network. My name is Kevin. I am on Twitter and Instagram. Kyle, where can we find you? Hold on. I said I'm on Twitter and Instagram, but I didn't say what I was. Spartan_Phoenix.
There we go. Of course, you can find me on Twitter at AKyleW and on Instagram, AKyleFandom.
By the way, Nathaniel said he didn't hear the music either. Are you sure you played it?
I am sure I played it.
Why don't you play it right? Let's play it right now. I want to hear it.
Okay.
There we go. That's what I wanted to hear. Pumps me up. There we go. Another way you can help support us is reviews. Please head over to your like iTunes and Apple Podcast and all of your other platforms that you listen to podcast on. Leave us a review. Search Fandom Podcast Network, and if you like what you're listening to here on Endzone, leave us a review there. We would love that. So please do so. All right, Kyle. We're going to start off with our brand new segment here. This is where we're just going to, first of all, before we get into it, how are you doing? How are you feeling right now?
I'm doing good. I've been busy with a lot of stuff here. We've been trying to get the end zone up. Of course, too. I have a new offensive line in front of me, Kevin.
You have a new offensive line in front of you. Yes. the furry type.
Yeah, I just want to throw this out there. I rescued 3 kittens last Wednesday. They were found outside my office. They are all cute as a button. I just took them to the vet today. Other than some medicine that's helping them get over a few things, they're all wonderful. I've already found a good home for. The other 2 looks like they might be sticking around with me for a little while. But I was joking last week with Kevin that I was going to name them Mahomes, Kelsey, and Hill. I'm not doing that just because I wanted to let their
don't let him be caught with that moniker. Jeez.
I wanted to let their own personalities kind of help define their names.
Did you have one called Tummy?
Yes, one is called Tummy.
Yeah,
she is a sweetheart, and the reason why she is called Tummy is because you put the food out, she is always the first one there. But what's even funnier is I took him to the vet today, and she wasn't even the heaviest of the kittens.
How funny. That's cool.
So I have my new offensive line, so I've got some good blocking in this. So, we're with our first segment. Kevin, I had a thought on this.
Okay.
Just run it by you in the chat, people. I'd like to call this the first down segment.
First down? Okay. I like that. We'll do that. So first down segment.
Yeah. So the first down segment, we're going to lead off with what used to be the closing segment of the End Zone, but still a staple that we could never get rid of. And of course, that is, the signature End Zone, mediocre, top-notch, award-winning fantasy football advice.
Yes. We want to kind of shoot it out there in the front, let people know what's going on. Of course, today's Wednesday. A lot of the, your waiver wires have already completed. So people are still kind of looking at the free agency, the stuff that the players that people dropped as well. But let's, first of all, Kyle, let's get into the Man Crush Fantasy Player of the Week. Now, originally it was Jimmy GQ.
Yes.
Then I decided and rallied to get it to Gardner Minshew. But Gardner Minshew, I think, has lost 6 games in a row right now.
Yeah.
I don't know if he can hold that moniker for very much longer. So I made a suggestion last week because I think we both agree this week the winner should probably also maybe temporarily take over the title of Man Crush.
I don't know if it looks like he's in high school though, Kevin. I'm just
you gotta get over the look, the crushy, actual crushy part here. It's about fantasy, Kyle. It's about fantasy production, and a little bit how their hair might look.
The worst part of it is, but Kevin will never fly for this. Really, the Man Crush award should be the Tom Brady Man Crush award. The way he's playing right now, but Kevin will never allow for that. But we're still debating this, but he is definitely the winner of the Man Crush Award this week, and that is a rookie, no less. And that's Justin Herbert of the Los Angeles Chargers.
Angeles Chargers, yeah.
Threw for 347 yards, 3 touchdowns, 9 rushes for 66 yards and a touchdown. The kid is on fire, Kevin.
Yeah, he is. He's scary good, and this is his job now to lose. It's his. Nathaniel, there's out there in the chat. What do you think, man? Did you play fantasy? Anyone else in the chat play fantasy? Anyone else that did something really good? But I think he wins it this year. So there we go. Now we got some waiver wire action going on here, Kyle. If you guys need some help here, but before you do that, how did you do in your fantasy leagues? How many are you in again?
I was in 3. It was a rough week. I took the 0 for 3. In the CBS Sports League, my big CBS Sports League, I rallied thanks to Justin Herbert, but DK Metcalf, who had been a horse for me all fantasy season, took a big 0. And I finished 6 points behind. Yet DK Metcalf made one of the plays of the week with that hustle play, running down the Arizona defender to prevent a touchdown after an interception. So
Don Beebe, there you go, baby.
There you go.
The ghost Don Beebe.
And then thanks to Justin Herbert, you actually destroyed me in our ESPN league.
Yeah, I started him, man. Woo, got me like 90-something points, man. That dude was on fire. So
and I got destroyed in our CBS Sports League because the guy I played, every player he had scored over 20 points.
I have 5 teams, and I won every single game. I had a good week. Unfortunately, in several of my leagues, I'm kind of treading water at like 3-3, or I was at like, 1-4 stuff, but I'm kind of slowly like taking down some people, and I'm slowly climbing back up to 500 or just over 500. In our ESPN league, Kyle, our no trophy league this year, in the East, you are in second place at 3-4, tied with Chappie. And then first place in that division is the Wuppertal Frogs. In the West, I am kind of down there at number 4 with DeBats, Ojai Zen Raiders, and of course Jennifer Walks the beat down at 5-2. I'm in first place though in my Atlanta Raider Booster Club thing, so I'm doing good there. So yeah.
Kevin, can I talk just real quick fantasy football trades? Because
sure.
I've had 2 real quick in our CBS Sports League. Yes. I traded with Jennifer Walk last week. I traded Odell Beckham and Chase Claypool for Nick Chubb. Now, what turned out to be most advantageous was right after this trade in Sunday's game, Odell Beckham went down for the year with a torn ACL. So I had that trade. And then in my big CBS Sports League today, I had a major trade as I was offered Tyreek Hill for DeAndre Swift. I jumped all over that.
Yeah, that was not a good trade. That was not a good trade. All right, let's get into a quick waiver wire names. Kyle, I want to throw a few out there myself. Running back for there's a lot of injuries in San Francisco, running backs and wide receivers. And JaMycal Hasty.
Yeah, because Jeff Wilson Jr. went down.
Yeah.
I mean, how many running backs have they gone through in San Francisco this season?
Exactly. But this guy's staying somewhat healthy. He's production. Definitely look at him. And by the way, I want to mention Nelson Aguilar. Remember that guy?
Oh, yeah. I've always actually been a fan of his. I know he played for the Eagles. He got famous for catching a baby. You know this story?
No.
Apparently, there was a burning building, and the firemen had arrived, and a woman literally tossed her baby down, and Nelson Aguilar caught the baby.
Well, it's good he catches the baby because he's been known in Philadelphia for dropping some balls. Yeah. But for the Raiders, he had a couple drops this last week, but he's been consistent with the touchdowns. I think of all the games, he's gotten at least one touchdown, except for a couple, and he's becoming that guy, that main target, reliable target for Carr. So he's definitely worth a pickup. Also, Corey Davis is back from injury for wide receiver for Tennessee, one of Tannehill's favorite targets. Those are 3 guys that I can definitely recommend that are been out there on the waiver wire. Kyle, you got some others there?
Yeah, I'm liking Rashard Higgins of Cleveland, especially with with Odell Beckham now done for the season. I like him. I'm also looking at Brandon Ayuk of San Francisco. He just keeps to catch some numbers. Curtis Samuel's starting to get a lot of play in Carolina too. Malcolm Brown's back on the waiver wire. I think the Rams running back situation might almost be more confusing than the Patriots, and that's saying
Malcolm Brown, though, seems to be the one. Him and Henderson are the 2 that are kind of doing the double duty right now. Cam Akers is not panning out right now. And Carlos Hyde for Seattle because Carson's a little banged up. Look at him. So there we go. All right. So now we go into second down. Is that what we're doing here, Kyle?
Second down, NFL hot topics.
Okay. So this is where we want to talk to you, and we'll throw this out you, Nathaniel, and anyone else that comes into. We got 3 hot topics here, and we're going to talk about probably one more in detail later in the show. And I think we've decided what that is, unless Kyle, something else comes up.
Yeah, unless this is, again, for those of you who may be just joining us on the chat. The idea is later on in the show, we will have our fan huddle, which will be, we're going to take one of these hot topics and really dive deep into it. However, if you in the chat bring up a suggestion or something that we want to do, we can always call an audible and change up the fan huddle, or if breaking news happens while we're recording the show. But, right now we're going to cover just the hot topics of the league because there's a few out there.
Yes. So first of all, let's talk about the Cowboys collapse real quick and what's happening there. And of course, Mike McCarthy, the coach that is definitely on the hot seat there, Kyle. Unfortunately, Dak Prescott went down before he could get his contract. Backup quarterback's not doing too well, and the team is just not clicking anywhere right now. They have a lot of high-priced players right now. Kyle, what's your hot take on this?
I think Dallas is a disaster area. I think Mike McCarthy is turning into a very bad hire and fit for that team. I think I think they had a chance 2 years ago to hire Cliff Kingsbury and are really regretting it right now. And they also had a chance to hire Matt Rule, the new Carolina Panthers coach. They're regretting it. I think they've got to look at the guy out in Oklahoma. I can't think of his name right now, but he developed Jalen Hurts. He developed Baker Mayfield. He's a lot of people are really high on him for the NFL. I think they need to look at that. But I don't think McCarthy survives after this season.
I agree too. Also, Mike McCarthy falls, in my opinion, under those coaches that can't adapt to the new way the NFL is trending towards. And he got ran out of Green Bay, with a future Hall of Fame quarterback. So there's something weird going on there. And then he comes here and he's not gelling here as well. The other problem too is the owner.
Yeah. Well,
the owner needs to step back, let someone else make the decisions and make sure that he is comfortable with them making the decisions. Because, sorry, Jerry Jones, he needs to let people be people. Let them do their thing.
I do think that Stephen Jones is starting to get a little more power. Jerry's starting to relinquish a little bit. The other problem for Dallas is injuries. I mean, Dak Prescott going down with that horrific injury. They've lost 3 of their 5 starting offensive linemen, and the amount of defensive players that they've lost on the defensive side of the ball is ridiculous. And I think they're realizing they're cutting some fat, because just today, before we recorded this, they cut Daryl Worley, a guy they signed as a free agent for the secondary, and Don Terry Poe, who's done absolutely nothing for them as they signed him as a free agent. So I think the light is coming on in Dallas. I also question their draft, because yes, CeeDee Lamb looks legit as a wide receiver, but they already had Cooper and Michael Gallup. Did they really need that wide receiver when there was offensive linemen, secondary, and pass?
Their direction of they're putting too much effort or too much into the highlight type players. They need defense. They need to protect that quarterback as well. Defendant says, "Come on, Kevin, come on. Jerry Jones won't do that." Yes, I know that, and I know I'm preaching here, but and he also says that not even half a season for McCarthy. I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah. So okay. Let's go into the next thing here, Kyle. Cam Newton's job in jeopardy. Cam Newton himself thinks that it is if he keeps playing the way he does.
I'm starting to think there's something to. Let's remember, Cam Newton had COVID. I think for an athlete, especially, I think COVID might do a little bit more number on their body than what we realize. And I think it takes them maybe I feel like it's an athlete really doesn't come back from COVID till about a month before they fully feel more themselves. And I think that's part of it with Cam Newton. And the part of it was he didn't get to practice. I think he will rebound. I think it's been a little bit of a struggle. And I think some of the non-spinning New England has done and the poor drafts New England has had over the last few years are starting to catch up with them. Cam Newton has no weapons. I mean, he has less weapons than what Tom Brady had last year. So
okay, so COVID may explain a little bit, but he was doing quite well with the same weapons in the first 2 weeks. Maybe it's COVID, maybe it's no practice, but he's kind of looking a little bit like old Cam Newton in his latter days there at Carolina. I'm not convinced on the COVID thing. We've seen other players come out of COVID and produce quite well. I don't know. I'm not convinced on that. I don't know if I have the answer yet, but I think it's a combination of other things too. He could have better weapons, but this is where the coaching comes in, where you look at what Brady had, and there were certain, who he was throwing to, and it didn't matter. So I think this is more of a Cam thing, and I'm not going to necessarily put it on COVID yet. Personally, that's not my take on it, but I think his job is not in jeopardy yet. I think that he's going to be given the chance, but the team's not the same.
No, they're not. And I also think part of it is the league is smart, and they figure out offenses pretty quickly. And when he doesn't have receivers to throw to, I mean, Edelman's 34, N'Keal Harry's looking like a bust. I mean, it's a mess in New England, and I think it's catching up with them. I think we're going to learn before the season's out. It was more Bill Belichick's a great coach, but not having Tom Brady makes a world of difference.
All right, let's move on here. Before we go into the next segment here, we're going to tease the hot topic there for the fan huddle. The return of the diva receivers, Antonio Brown to the Bucks and Des Bryant to the Ravens practice squad. See where that goes. So we're going to save that for a little bit for our last segment in the show. Talk about that there in the fan huddle. So are we going on third down now? Is this it, Kyle? We're getting the getting ready for primetime game awards, right? And then we'll do our own little Raiders and Chiefs news, right?
Yep, love that. So I put a few out there for primetime game awards. I'm curious to see if you agree with me, Mr. Wright.
Before you mention them, though, let's explain this a little bit. It's a new segment, Kyle.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So this is where instead of reading off the scores of all the games, we're not going to do that anymore here on the End Zone. You could go look at that and all the scores. What we want to do is pick out about 3 games that were of interest for one reason or another. Maybe they were exciting or something else happened. And we call this the Ready for Primetime Game Awards. And we're going to award one of these 3 games the primetime game of the award. Then we're going to have a little fun. We're going to pick the one game that we felt was not good. It just was not good for several reasons. And we're going to give that it should have been on Thursday night game award, because come on, we're not fans of Thursday night games, guys. Are we really? No. So we're going to give it the third, even though there has been a few good Thursday night games, we're going to give it the little negative moniker and saying the game just should have been there and not where it was. So Kyle, let's go. We got 3 games here. Give us one.
Game number 1. It was actually a primetime game. It wasn't supposed to be a primetime game, but it was shifted because your Raiders had a COVID issue.
Yes.
And so it was shifted, and it turned out to be one hell of a primetime game. That was the Seattle Seahawks and Arizona Cardinals, with the Cardinals winning 37-34, knocking the Seahawks from the ranks of the unbeaten. Cardinals look really good in this game, Kevin.
Yeah, they did. They were able to keep the pressure on Russell Wilson and, stack the box, and they weren't quite sure what the defense was going to do. And it was a very exciting game. It went into overtime, right? Didn't it, Kyle?
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah. So yes, Cardinals won 37-34. This was in prime time. Originally it wasn't, but it was the perfect game to be shown at prime time. It worked out that way. So yeah. So game number 2.
Wait, Kevin. I just want to throw in one quick note on that.
Yes.
That game spawned a trade in the NFL today, because Seattle, who has had no pass rush all season, made a trade for Cincinnati Bengal defensive lineman Carlos Dunlap, who's been one of their better sack producers the last few years. He's been disgruntled in Cincinnati, wants to go to a winning team. He was traded today to the Seahawks for some conditional draft picks.
Well, it's funny you mentioned Cincinnati, right?
Yes, exactly.
Is the second game that we picked for a possible primetime game award is the Browns and Bengals game. Browns win 37-34 versus the Bengals here, Kyle. This was a very interesting and important divisional game.
Oh yeah. What was even more interesting, especially for the Browns, this was a big game for the Browns. They needed this win. But what was even more interesting was it looking like Cincinnati was going to blow out Cleveland early on. Things got crazy. 5 lead changes in the fourth quarter, Kevin.
That's crazy, dude.
5.
I'm looking at the fourth quarter right here. Bengals touchdown. Okay. Joe Burrow pass to Higgins. Cleveland touchdown. Shotgun Mayfield short to Kareem Hunt. 8 yards touchdown. Bengals touchdown. Burrow pass. Giovanni Bernard. The next we've got Cleveland touchdown to Mayfield to Peoples. End of fourth quarter. There you go. Finally, they win. So Cleveland wins. That was an exciting game. And Cleveland is playing good football. They're not great, but they're playing good football.
Yeah. Well, and like I talked about, and a couple of things out of this game. Odell Beckham done for the season with an ACL.
Yes.
Nick Chubb is not too far from coming back. They think within the next 2 weeks they're going to have Nick Chubb back, but it's going to be a big boost for the Browns. And Joe Burrow, Kevin, I think it's safe to say that he's probably going to win Offensive Rookie of the Year, and he's the Bengals have a legit quarterback on their hands.
This is very true, yes. All right, Kyle, what's the third contender here?
Their third contender was really the game of the week as far as what we looked at before. We have this undefeated Steelers at the undefeated Titans. This game comes down to the wire, a really bad intentional grounding play by Ryan Tannehill. The Steelers took a huge lead in this game, and the Titans fought back and made this competitive, but just too much at the end. A bad intentional grounding, like I said. Gostkowski misses a game-tying field goal, and the Steelers continue to be I believe now, the only unbeaten team in the NFL at 6-0. First time the Steelers have ever been 6-0, which is kind of shocking to me too.
They are quietly good right now.
They're balanced. They are a balanced team. They have a great defense, good offense, good running game, solid special teams. I think they have to
good
be
good kicker too.
Yeah. I think they have to be right now, even as much as it pains me to say it, they have to be the favorites in the AFC right now.
Yeah. I would have to say, well, I mean, you got the Chiefs, even though they're not undefeated. You got the Chiefs are the Chiefs.
Yeah.
Your guys, your boys.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying, as of right now, by the quality of football they're playing, because they're playing really good football right now.
Nathaniel says, by the way, are we done with saying the Packers have no receiving depth?
No, because it's a statement of fact.
And he says, don't forget the Pats had the sit outs too for COVID.
Yeah, but that was mostly on defense.
Yes.
So
true.
That doesn't affect Cam Newton that much.
Their defense is still okay, the Pats.
Yeah.
So yeah. But anyway, it'd be interesting to see where they would have been if they didn't have the sit out. So Kyle, let's wrap up this here. What is your vote for the Primetime Game Award? Who should get the Primetime Game Award? Even though if it wasn't on primetime, it should have been on primetime. It should get this week's award. Which one? And Nathaniel, you're in there. Let us know. Is it Seahawks, Cardinals, Browns, Bengals, or Steelers, Titans?
It's Seahawks, Cardinals. This game was moved to primetime, and it lived up to the billing in the first place. This game was exciting. Offense, crazy plays. Kyler Murray, Russell Wilson putting on a show. This was everything this game was hyped up to be. Things are getting real interesting in the NFC West. The Cardinals are legit. Kevin, I know that pains you to probably hear that at this point because you're sick of hearing that, but this is a different Cardinals team.
No. What I didn't like was all the preseason hype over the last 10 years that the Cardinals were going to be the front runner for the NFC for so long, and then they would just tank or not be good. It's okay to say it now because they're doing well and they're exciting to watch and they got great players. I don't have a problem now because they're starting to prove ourselves, and they just beat the undefeated Seahawks, which is the reason why this also gets my vote as well. I was trying to go to bed that night going, who's winning this game? And, I had to get up early the next morning. I'm looking at my phone going, it's overtime. And there I was falling asleep going, phone. Finally it's over. Wait, Cardinals won?
Exactly.
So Cardinals get my pick for the Primetime Game Award. It looks like Nathaniel agrees as well. Thank you, Nathaniel. Appreciate that. So, okay, on to the next part of this segment here. Who gets the Thursday night game loser award? Which game was lame? Boring? Who cares? Maybe all these kind of things that contribute to when you're looking at like the schedule and you kind of look like, was there highlights, Kyle, what is our nomination here?
Well, I think there might be a rule, at least for this year, that if two teams the NFC least play, they might automatically win this no matter what.
NFC least, explain that.
The NFC East, which is by far the worst of conference in football, the Dallas Cowboys lead that are in second place in that division with a 2-5 record, a half game behind Philadelphia, has like a 2-4-1 record or something like that. It's just terrible. But the Washington football team destroyed the Dallas Cowboys 25-3. Nobody cares. But the fact that Dallas just no-showed it against the Washington football team. But, quick shout out, Andy Dalton got killed in that football game. He took a horrid hit to the head that I don't think was intentional, but still looked really nasty. So best wishes for Andy Dalton on the recovery mend. I don't know who Dallas was playing at quarterback. I think they might have tried to reach out to you or me to play quarterback while that game was going on.
Pass.
Yeah. No, I like my life, but that Washington Cowboys, there was a couple other contenders, Bills, Jets, but of who cares? But you know what?
Nathaniel says Bears, Rams.
No, it was Monday Night Football. It was two winning teams. The Bears were 5-1. The Rams have a winning record, and are right in the thick of things in the NFC West. I think that game had more meaning. This division, who cares?
He also said NFC West is feasting on the NFC East and the AFC East. Interesting. Yeah,
very well. He's right, but still.
But yeah, the that as you would say, NFC least, the East, NFC East, they're all horrible right now, and it seems like Washington and Philadelphia. I don't know. I don't know who wants that division right now, but yes, the winner for the Thursday night game award loser goes to the Washington football team. All right, Kyle, as we wrap up, are we on third down, right? Is that what we're doing right now?
We're still on third down. We need to talk a little Chief and Raider news, Kevin.
Yes, of course, because it's our podcast, and I'm a Raiders fan, and you're a Chiefs fan.
Yeah, it's one of the fun dynamics here of the end zone. So, do we flip the coin of who goes first?
Now I'll go first.
Okay. So
Raiders lost 45-20 to Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Their defense sucks. Offense played well, but not well enough to keep them in the game. And also for some reason, as of late, we are not doing well after our bye in the Gruden era here. And we had a lot of distractions, Kyle. We had COVID. Trent Brown infected, not just himself, but really affected, I think, the concentration, the morale, and he was a huge distraction, even though he wasn't there. And it caused our offensive line to not be at the facility and not be able to practice pretty much at all till they got to the morning of the game, which happened to be in Las Vegas.
Yeah.
That was a big distraction for everyone.
Yeah. Can I weigh in on something too? As far as completely unfair for the Raiders, I think, in the aspect of they're gearing up for a primetime game and have this game moved to 4:05, not even the 4:25 slot, the 4:05 slot. This game should have been pushed back to Monday or Tuesday.
Yep, we agree.
So yep. I don't understand what the NFL is doing here, but I almost wonder if it's not a little bit of punishment for the Raiders as well, Kevin. And I'm going to let you kind of talk about this because the Raiders were talk around the league because of this COVID-19 situation, but it's not all good talk.
You talking about COVID? Is that what you mean by not good talk? What do you mean? Kyle, you froze up on me.
Yeah, okay. Well, when I unfreeze, hopefully here momentarily. Can you hear me, Kevin?
Yes, yeah, go.
Okay.
You're good.
No, because we talked about, so you had a great post about this, how the Raiders have handled COVID.
Yeah. Raiders have not handled it well. There's several things with Gruden getting fined for not wearing a mask properly. After the second game, the win against the Saints, there was a charity thing going on, and they got comfortable and took their masks off and stuff like that. So yeah, there is probably NFL's kind of go, look, you may not be able to start your starters, but you got people that can come in off the bench and play here. Whether their starters get cleared or not, you're still going to have your game on Sunday. So that, I think, was the punishment unofficially, to be honest with you. I'm glad that we didn't have players suspended, but Trent Brown was not wearing his tracker. Therefore, they had to take the offensive line because he was near them for most of this time and sequester them, take them out of the facility because they were considered high risk. And because Trent Brown was not wearing his tracker and thinking other than himself, he is not a favorite person on that team right now. So there you go.
Yeah, which leads into one last quick thing on the Raiders, because you brought this up. High-priced players not paying their dividends. Is it time to cut Trent Brown?
A lot of fans feel that way, but I think it's going to happen. He's getting his money. He has his money right now. Okay, his big chunk of money. He is good. He is good for the team when he's actually playing. It's proven, even though it's not a lot of games, when he is there, it matters. I think they're going to write him out for as long as possible, and they're going to dump him at the end of the year. Unless something very bad happens with him again, I could see them just cutting him and just paying him and making him go away.
Yep.
High-priced players not paying off well. We have a lot of the defensive free agents that we've picked up are totally underperforming right now, not doing well at all. It's very frustrating. There are some hungry defensive players that are on the practice squad and our backups. When they were sent into play against your Chiefs, they did quite well. I say start them. Let's make those guys who are getting a lot of money, let's get them hungry.
Yeah. So let me talk about my Kansas City Chiefs here, because it was an interesting week for them as well. First, they played in the first snow game of the year, Kevin. Denver was a mess.
I didn't see the highlights on this. I figured it's Denver. You guys are going to win.
Yeah, no, it was a snow game. Denver was a mess. Kansas City does win 43-16, becomes the first team this season to score a touchdown on offense, defense, and special teams. But the big thing about this game for the Chiefs was this wasn't the superstars making the plays. It wasn't Mahomes. It was Clyde Edwards-Helaire had a good game, but it was Chris Pringle on a touchdown return. Mecole Hardman on a big interception.
Did you say Chris Kringle as in Santa Claus?
Chris Pringle.
Okay.
who should be getting an endorsement from Pringles. But he had a kickoff return for a touchdown. Mecole Hardman showed up big in this game. Daniel Sorensen with an interception for a touchdown. And they ran the ball again well, including the debut of Le'Veon Bell, who had about just over 50 yards rushing, a couple nice runs for 16 yards, though one was called back for a holding.
How many times did you touch the ball?
About 10 to 12 times, which is what Kansas City wants, because they were figuring the numbers on Clyde Edwards-Helaire before they made this acquisition, and he was just on record pace for carries, and they didn't want to do this to a rookie. So I love having Le'Veon there. I think he's a great insurance policy and a great fit for what Kansas City does in their offense, and he's going to
Did they put any of the other running backs on a practice squad or whatever?
No, they're actually carrying 5 running backs on their roster right now. They actually moved Omaway, the offensive lineman, to injured reserve, because of his knee injuries, which allowed them to bring in.
You mean Kelechi Osemele?
Osemele, yes, Osemele.
Gotcha. Okay.
So that's how that worked out. But other than that, I mean, it was business as usual for Kansas City. It's interesting to see how they're performing in the run game the last couple of weeks. I think Andy Reid has made that a point of emphasis. The Jets are coming to town, so we're feeling pretty good about it. I think the line on that right now is Kansas City 19.5.
Yeah, it's crazy. We'll talk about that later. So, yeah.
So,
all right. Another thing that we have in this third down that's a little fun, Kyle, is we like to see how well the teams did against their byes. Did they beat the byes, or did the byes beat them? I'm going to go back a little bit and just say the bye beat the Raiders. So we had Ravens on a bye. They're going against Pittsburgh next week. We had the Dolphins on a bye. They're playing LA. Vikings on a bye, they're at Green Bay, and we had the Colts on a bye, and they're at Detroit. Who won in the Ravens bye, Kyle?
I'm just gonna go through the list here, Kevin. It was a bad week for the bye.
Yeah.
the bye took a pounding this week, because I think the bye lost 3 out of 4 games this week.
Which one did they win?
They beat the Vikings, because Kirk Cousins threw a couple of interceptions in that game. The bye secondary is pretty solid. So.
By the way, Nathaniel says, go Assembly, go ISU. Santa as a center. He keeps delivering the ball to the QB. All right. He said he heard Kringle too, by the way.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I agree. Yeah, Vikings lost in the bye. That's a good one there. All right, so, Kyle, we got the last segment. It's a fourth down. Is that what we're going to call it?
Well, before we get to that last segment, then we're going to take a little break so we can plan out a few plays here and tell you what else is going on around the Fandom Podcast Network.
Thank you for listening. We hope you're enjoying this podcast. We like to continue to feed your ears by inviting you to listen to the Fandom Podcast Network and all of the other awesome shows we have to offer. It starts with our flagship show, Culture Clash, our weekly pop culture news podcast. Bloody Kings, our Highlander podcast. Couch Potato Theater, our podcast celebrating our favorite movies. Time Warp, the Fandom Flashback podcast discussing a year in movies and our favorite pop culture topics. Endzone, the NFL podcast. Good Evening, an Alfred Hitchcock podcast. Union Federation, our Star Trek and Orville podcast. Hair Metal, the 80s and early 90s rock metal podcast. Type 40, our Doctor Who podcast. Lethal Mullet, a 1980s and 90s action film podcast. What a Piece of Junk, a Star Wars podcast. And our newest show, Making Treks, a new Star Trek podcast with a deep dive into the final frontier with host Mark Newbold and Adam P. O'Brien. You can enjoy all of these great Fandom Podcast Network shows on our master feed at fpnet.podbean.com. Fandom Podcast Network is also on Apple Podcast, iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. You can also find us on Facebook under Fandom Podcast Network. You can also email us at fandompodcastnetwork@gmail.com. You can also find us on Instagram and Twitter under Fandom Podcast Network. Thank you for listening, and remember, respect others and enjoy your fandom.
And we're back. And yes, it is time for fourth down, Kevin, because we never punt here at the end zone. We always go for it on fourth down.
That's what Gruden should have done last week.
So in this segment, we're going to have a little fun. We're going to do our primetime game predictions, Kevin.
Real quick, I just want to shout out Nathaniel said, Miami kicked the Bice butt with all the Tua talk.
Yeah, exactly. Tua.
I love that.
What a debut for Tua. He put up some numbers, man. Man, I think he's still scoring touchdowns. But so what we're going to do here is we're going to pick our games that are primetime prediction games. The games that we think on the schedule coming up are the ones that are going to be worth the biggest.
And they're very important for divisional, supremacy, possibly. Maybe there's some drama in there as well, stuff like that.
Yeah. But first and foremost with that, we're going to if our individual teams are not part of the primetime factor, we're going to preview their game real quick. Definitely not a primetime game as my Kansas City Chiefs are going to be playing the New York Jets, even though Football Lock says Seattle. I think there was a typo there.
Yes. Yeah, you guys are playing the Jets.
At a 19.5 point spread.
And it's at Kansas City.
Just the Chiefs might get right real quick here.
What's your feeling on that game?
I'm thinking Patrick Mahomes might not see the second half just because they're going to be like, nope, we're done. You can rest.
Are they going to put in Chris Kringle?
That could be. It could be. Le'Veon Bell could be the new quarterback for a half. I don't know. But yeah, no, this could be painful for a lot of Jets fans.
Yeah.
Trevor Lawrence countdown, it watches on.
My Raiders are playing at Cleveland, and I'm very nervous about this game because Cleveland's playing strong. And this is an important game for the Raiders because they don't want to go 3-4 after this. We're 3-3 right now. Cleveland's favored by 2.5. The way our defense is playing. But you know what, though? Let's hope that what Gruden said at the press conference says changes are going to happen. We're going to mix things up. Let's hope he actually does that.
Actually a big game for your Raiders because Cleveland is 4-2. You guys are 3-3. That would tie you at the same record of 4-3 with a tiebreaker over the Browns when you think about the wild card playoff picture.
Yes, this is very important for that reason. If the Raiders can make a chance at that extended playoff.
Yeah. But let's look at our primetime predictions. The three games I think that are, and Kevin and I try to agree on that we think are the must-watch games of the week. And the first one is the Seattle Seahawks, who just won the Primetime Game Award a week. But it's a huge game in the NFC West. San Francisco at Seattle. Seattle favored by 2.5, Kevin.
Yeah, now this is a big one here because San Francisco, they're still fighting, man. They're going to be a contender in the NFC West here. And I think this is one of those statement games. And Seattle can be scored on right now. As you mentioned, they did a trade right now to help with that. So this is huge.
Yeah. To me right now, what might be the game of the week, in my opinion, Pittsburgh at Baltimore. Baltimore favored by 3.5, basically the home field advantage.
Baltimore coming off a bye, got some rest too, but yeah.
Yeah, that's going to be huge. And it was getting tough after those two, but I found one I think it has a lot of implications in the NFC playoff picture.
I think Nathaniel might like this.
Yeah,
I think because he's a Bears fan, right?
Yep. New Orleans favored by 2.5 going to the Chicago Bears. Chicago looked bad in that Monday Night Football game. I'm not going to lie.
I think they had a bad night. I think they're better than what they were on that Monday night. They really are.
Yeah. Chicago's got to address the quarterback situation in the offseason, though.
Yeah, I'm kind of curious. Nathaniel, what do you think? What do you want to do with the quarterback? What do you want to do? What do you want to do? Foles, Trubisky, Mariota. We could trade, get some draft capital.
I don't know if you can get anything for Mariota, but Kevin, with that, let's bring in the fan huddle. Let's huddle up.
This is our last segment here.
Yep.
We're at 4th and inches right now, getting ready to go into the end zone.
Yep. So the hot topic of the week is the return of the diva receivers, Kevin, because both Antonio Brown and Dez Bryant have come back officially into the league. Antonio Brown is on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers roster with a little help from Tom Brady, I'm thinking, even though he won't admit to it. And, of course, Dez Bryant signs to the Baltimore Ravens practice squad. Now, Antonio Bryant, I think, is probably the most hated man in the NFL right now. But he's got all the talent in the world. And people going, why are the Buccaneers signing? The receiver's the last thing they need. And being here in Tampa, I've been given a little extra perspective on this. One, Tom Brady definitely had influence in this. I don't care what anybody says. Tom Brady and Antonio Brown got along famously when Brown was with the Patriots at the beginning of last
until
season.
He had that little legal issue.
Yeah, which is still floating out there. So that's going to be something to watch. But the Tampa receivers are banged up. Mike Evans is fighting a very bad ankle sprain. Chris Godwin broke a finger on his hand last week. He's going to be out this week. And Scotty Miller, who's been a step up too, he's fighting hamstring injuries. And they did lose tight end O.J. Howard for the season with an Achilles tendon. Apparently, they're saying Antonio Brown is coming in phenomenal shape, ready to play, has looked phenomenal in his first couple of practices with the Bucs. So I expect to see him on the field
Week 9
when he's done with his suspension.
Apparently his contract is $1 million base salary with incentives up to 2.5.
Yeah. While we look over at Baltimore, where they brought in Dez Bryant, who's been trying to get back in the league since his short run with the Saints, where he didn't even play maybe 3 snaps, didn't even play a game for them. He signs, goes to practice, tears his Achilles. He hasn't been back in the league since. I think there's still a lot of talent there. It just matters that the legs are there, Kevin. Yeah. But these are two of the more controversial receivers we've had in a while. These are go back to the guys like Chad Ochocinco and Terrell Owens for me.
Yeah. It's interesting. And I want to mention what Nathaniel's saying here. He says, Tom is running the show in Tampa. Let's not mistake it for otherwise. I think he has a lot of influence. I think he's right. Arians, of course, is doing his thing, but he's listening to Tom here. And, if anyone can tame Antonio Brown, because Antonio Brown, I think learned a lesson on how to lose $30 million.
Yeah.
And, and not how to tweet out a video about being released and being excited about it. I think he's been humbled a little bit. Maybe going to the Patriots was starting that, and following Tom, this may work.
Yeah,
we'll see.
This may work. It can very well work. Tom's got a lot of influence here in Tampa, but can you blame him? He's probably got a 2-year window here in Tampa. Tampa wants that Super Bowl. They're going to do anything to get it. Plus, they still have a very good chance of hosting the Super Bowl this year, being the home hosting the Super Bowl.
This is true. Yeah. And also they look good right now. Obviously they're at the top of the NFC South. And I think that when we look at the rest of the NFC right now, with Seattle, Green Bay, maybe there should be some fight in there. We'll see what happens. By the way, Nathaniel also said that he wants the Bears to draft a new QB in May.
Yeah, well, there's going to be a few good quarterbacks to draft, but you know what? It's time to break up that fan huddle. And you know what? New format here at the End Zone. We know. Kind of did it on a little short notice here. Start watching it. This is from 9 to 10 roughly
Eastern time
6 p.m. Pacific will be on Wednesday nights. Will be the new home for the End Zone here on the Fandom Podcast Network YouTube channel, live exclusive to the YouTube channel. Not going to jump it around anymore. We got it set, locked in location. This new format is going to be here to stay. But, we always try to fine tune it a little bit. But we're going to start posting on Mondays on our own personal Facebook pages and on the Fandom Podcast Network group Facebook page what our hot topic choices are going to be. So if you can't join us on the show, weigh in on that. Throw in something idea that we could have in the fan huddle as well. But I'm liking the new format, Kevin. We're going to have some fun with it. With that, any final words before we make our last Hail Mary here?
Quarterback sneaking in the end zone, buddy.
Only if it's Tom Brady, because he gets it in every time. I know, but it's uncanny. It is uncanny. I'm seeing it every week in Tampa. It's like just weird. But with that, we hope that your fantasy football team and more importantly, your favorite NFL team.
Thanks for checking in, Nathaniel.
Yep. Love you, Nathaniel. Hopefully we'll get some more viewers back in here next week. But you know what? Good luck. And we hope to see you once again in the end zone.